There's people from Bloomberg that look at this and you just go, "Oh my god, these people have a podcast."
I didn't want to
I
end
still
on a
want
downer.
those glasses too. Like
I'm
I've just gone
desperate for
through this
them.
diatribe and I'm still want one. Yeah,
Yeah,
Meta, if
this
you're
is the
listening,
problem. This is the problem.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Yep,
Mark. I just said
exactly.
some terrible things about you, but that doesn't mean if you pay me, I won't say nice things about you.
Sponsor this podcast.
Yes, selling out looks better and better every day. I'll be honest. I'm just going to be honest. Selling out looks better and better every day.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to the Unhype AI podcast. This week, we talk about the new China AI action plan, Meta. Superintelligence may not be super trustworthy. Who saw that coming? ChatGPT's agent mode does exactly what OpenAI explicitly said it couldn't, and ChatGPT shared conversations are indexed by Google. What a surprise. Credit card companies increasingly dictate what is and isn't appropriate because you know who gives the best life advice? Visa and MasterCard. India's IT services sector could be collapsing. Avocado AI. That sounds tasty. Chipotle does AI right for hiring. Meta allows coding tools to be used during coding interviews because that's how we code in the real world. Harmonic AI, new startup, promises hallucination-free models for math. There's a data center in Wyoming that will use more energy than the rest of the state combined while energy prices rise across the United States. Yay. Apple cracks down on AI that offends the CCP's delicate sensibilities. Tesla's Autopilot crash leads to a $345 million lawsuit and another sign that the company is really falling behind. Stack Overflow's developer survey shows that trust in AI coding tools is failing as adoption rises. That's not good. We'll talk about the major releases from this week, earnings season part 2, the end of marketing as we know it, and I feel fine. And are we ever getting our privacy back? Let's go.
You want to get started with new China AI action plan? There's a new one?
Yeah, definitely. So remember, last week was a big one, wasn't it? Because we had the US AI plan, and then we had the very rare Premier of China rebuke to the nation and the areas of the nation, which was, do we all have to chase this dream? And talking about, chasing hype essentially, and the worry behind that. But now we have an actual AI action plan in writing, and it's I've got to just quote, I think, which is the core essence of this, which is, we must prevent artificial intelligence from becoming the exclusive game of a few countries or companies, and promote inclusive development for all mankind. Isn't this, you can just, it makes your heart pound, doesn't it? It gives you tingles. Look, this is for mankind. It had everything, every tick box you can imagine. Like the ecological side, the gender side, absolute marvelous stuff. Of course, for all of that, we know that this, still has a very hard fist behind it. To be fair, it was in direct contrast to the US. Control the stack, the models, the chips, the allies, export, the sort of, almost like an arms race. They're trying to shape the rules, especially around the UN frameworks, where the US perhaps doesn't have so much influence. This is all about digital diplomacy and infrastructure support to the global south. Of course, this is about pushing for governance essentially in UN bodies, and a massive push for open source. Now, we saw part of that open source push in the US plan, which everybody championed as being great for Meta. Of course, that was a geopolitical strategy as well, because you can essentially push your culture through it. And the key quote, I think, is, this kind of this development for mankind. As I say, these are not parallel visions, they're rival infrastructures of trust. They're two different ways of going at the same game, and ultimately the rest of the world is caught in the crosshairs of this. Which way do they lean? And that's a more serious question than perhaps a US audience might understand it to be from a European vantage. Probably shouldn't say that, but the question will be, do you want your digital future shaped by dominance or diplomacy? They're both equally as alluring and dangerous as each other. So yeah, very,
I think
very interesting
I think
topic.
with China, it's the myth of diplomacy. That's
Eh,
really it's the impression of diplomacy, because let's be real, their version of diplomacy, ask Hong Kong how that's going, ask Taiwan how their version of diplomacy looks, ask the Philippines.
yeah.
You start realizing that their version of diplomacy is say one thing but do something else. I'll be honest, the thing I admire about our AI action plan is at least we're honest.
I
And
agree with that.
that's,
Yeah,
that's,
it was about dominance. It was
yep,
about unparalleled
yep,
power. It was revealed. And as we've often said about some of the CEOs, sort of must be in, at least they come out and say it. This was very velvet glove. All couched behind inclusivity, but with, take the mask off. The teeth are there bearing. So.
yeah, exactly. I mean, both sides have the exact same sort of thing. Talking completely different direction, something that we covered last week, but we're coming back to again, looks like IT services. In India, that entire industry is under threat. BBC had a great article earlier this week about how the entire IT services sector in India could be slowly collapsing, with companies like Infosys, TCS, Cognizant, all of them sort of coming out and saying, look, we're flattening our organizations. We're taking a lot of these roles away. We're augmenting with AI so that we can deliver a lower cost product. And really what we're doing is we're competing with AI. We're competing against, outsource is competing against AI directly. And I think that's a trend that will continue. And we talk about this not just in software development, software engineering, but also customer service and support, all of these other industries that are adjacent to this professional services, not just IT consulting anymore. And these are all under threat from AI. So I think we're watching sort of in real time a lot of what we've been talking about all the way through, which is this larger, threat to this outsourced business model.
I think what shocked me, you kind of gave me the link to it, was the speed and scale of
Yeah.
this. This was not incremental over a period of 5 to
Yep.
7 years. This was immediate effect, and 30 to 50% gone within a matter of, you can put it into months. I'd like to make a broader point, because something came up today, which I think impacts on this exactly, because it's this whole thing of product people prototyping now, rather than doing big product requirement documents and all the things that engineers used to need. Now, an interesting subsection to that conversation is that treating engineers like, order takers at a restaurant. It's the kind of devaluing of the engineering, discipline, which has been going on for a long time, that kind of erosion. And so when you begin to outsource, and I've experienced this many, many times, when you outsource the engineering capacity, especially when you offshore it, very often they are like order takers. There is no pushback. There is no joint collaboration. There is no feeding of their ideas, or even guiding you when you're wrong and saying that's ridiculous. There is none of that. So you strip all that out. You strip all that engineering intellect out, and all that imagination and the art that goes with it, and the business side. Yeah, it's AI-able.
Yeah.
Give it a PRD,
Yeah.
let it code, and that's the fundamental problem. It was the It's
Let it
true though,
cook.
isn't it?
Yeah.
The
Let
truth
it
of it.
cook. Let the
De-skill the
AI
discipline.
develop.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like we got these disciplines ready for the AI revolution to flatten them, because we kind of de-skilled them first.
Yeah, that's totally and something that I saw with the Stack Overflow survey that I think sort of flew under the radar. As adoption is rising for these AI tools, trust is dropping. The number of developers last year, I think it was 40% last year, trusted AI coding tools. This year it's down to 29%. And I think something that most companies and most people don't realize, this is sort of the disconnect between the C-suite version and the real boots on the ground engineering team version, is that over 90% by most surveys, somewhere between 80 and 90% of enterprises are using AI coding tools. But when you look at the adoption within engineering organizations, how many people are actually using them, you get down to almost 30%. And so there is
Not
this
surprised.
huge disconnect. Yeah, huge disconnect between the two. And I think, one of the quotes that I read was, it was AI solutions that are almost right, but not quite, are becoming an increasing problem. And I talked to somebody inside of Salesforce who she runs, one of their engineering organizations, and she was frontline in making AI work for coders. And she said, look, you have to mandate that everyone uses it, but then you also have to have this pragmatic. You can't just say you will use it for stuff because sometimes it doesn't work, and you have to figure out where it can deliver value today instead of use it for everything even though it doesn't work, or it doesn't work for everything, get rid of it. You sort of have to do this really hard work, and it's a challenge for most organizations to do this sort of more complex adoption where it's not all or nothing. And she
I'm
said, yeah, they had to mandate it, you know,
I'm
and
so
you had to
glad.
then figure it out.
Yeah, this is I've rarely have we seen a technology adoption cycle like this, where adoption flies upwards, trust flies downwards,
Yep. Yep.
almost in parallel at exactly the same time. It's quite bizarre to see, and it's another one of those, like using it. I've been talking online about using it for writing and things like that. Again, as we said previously, is that actually this technology is most powerful in the hands of the most skilled in that domain. Um,
Yes.
this is the
Yes.
problem. If I go on to a large language model and say, write me a post about what Vin's just spoke about, it'd be beige rubbish. But if I really am a deep domain expert and I can work with it and craft it like a coder, like somebody who really can engineer, then you can see that augmentation working extremely powerfully. But of course, it has the dual effect because you're a domain expert, you see the rubbish, you know the
Yes.
nonsense. And that's when it's not because it's rubbish. It's a resetting of expectations to the right level.
Yep.
This is what I've been trying to talk about. Is that it's kind of the resetting of expectations. It's not because it's rubbish or it's magical. It's because it was never supposed to be any of those. It was supposed to be right there. But anyway,
Overpromise, underdeliver.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the
There it
speed and
is. Speaking
scale
of,
of the collapse of these offshores is
yeah.
staggering.
Yeah, it's staggering. But
Yeah.
speaking of overpromise and maybe deliver, let's hopefully deliver Meta. Super intelligence. We got a couple of these. I want you to start this off, and then I want to read you a quote from the earnings call yesterday. And I want
Yeah.
to hear your organic response to this.
Wow, this was fascinating. I love when things coincide. So you had the Meta, obviously Zuckerberg's personal superintelligence that's coming, evolving agents that plan, remember, and grow with you. Superb. At exactly the same time, you had a major academic survey come out mapping this exact arc, evolving agents adapting. It came out of Princeton and all the top universities in the US. Now they're exactly the same theme. So these are all about feedback loops and reinforced shaped memory. But the interesting thing is that obviously one is commercial and one is architectural research. So the paper was very cautious and safety aware and aware of things to do with the things we've been speaking so much about. Is that if it learns from me, Vin, it starts spitting it back at me. Yeah, so the paper was like that. What was Meta like? No, of course it wasn't. It was all about branding and stickiness and features and commercialization. Of course it was. Yeah, but you nailed it. You nailed the new term for it in the call during the week, which is contextual lock-in. And this is what we've got now. Because the better the agent knows you, the better AI knows you, the harder it is to leave, and they damn well know that. It's not out of coercion, it's just inertia because if you leave, you're leaving behind your context and you have to build it all up again. So, in a sense, what they're building is not to me super intelligent, it's super alignment. And it's not super alignment to the truth, it's to you. And it's to make it harder to walk away from. Will it be better in that sense? Yeah, in a sense. But boy, try walking away from that and they know it.
Oh, yeah. So I want to read you this quote. It's AI adjacent, but I think this is a really good one for your background on. So you're hearing this probably for the first time, and I'm just going to get your raw, unfiltered feedback because that seems to be very popular. So here we go. Hear this in the voice of Mark Zuckerberg. I think in the future, if you don't have glasses that have AI or some way to interact with AI, I think you're kind of similarly probably going to be at a pretty significant cognitive disadvantage. It's also going to unlock a lot of value where you can just interact with an AI system throughout the day in this multimodal way. I can see the content around you. You can it can see the content around you, can generate a UI for you, show you information, and be helpful. The other thing that's awesome about glasses is they're going to be the ideal way to blend physical and digital worlds together. Oh my God, here it comes. So the whole metaverse vision, I think, is going to end up being extremely important too. And AI is going to accelerate that too, trying to excuse the $4.8 billion we lost in our metaverse division last year.
Oh, he's still flogging it. Good for him. It's adorable. Good for him. You said it. You said, I can see. No, sorry, Meta can see. This is the whole point, isn't it? Everything you see, they see. Every single purchase, every interaction, everything in your house. Absolute. Can you imagine his bloody super intelligence on it all? Every piece of it, all the time. I always, when you said I can see, have you seen that meme where he's hiding behind, he's just peeking through the window? Have you seen that one? I love that. It's like, yeah, he can see.
Yes.
He can see. Oh my
Mark
goodness.
knows.
Bless him, the metaverse.
When I heard those quotes. I actually pulled those from an article, but I remember I was listening on the call and I'm just like, oh my God. This is, I mean, I get where he's going. I get the vision. But when you think about it, and we'll talk about this later, when you think about it in terms of a data perspective, data privacy, what's that? What's that?
Wow.
Speaking of Meta, they're allowing coding tools into job interviews. I mean, it's about time. I think we'll see more companies do this because that's how coding gets done now. I mean, if you're not using AI tools to code, even if the reliability is fairly low, it's sort of this interesting dichotomy. At least they're being honest again, because that's how all of us code. I don't know how we haven't used, and I mean, in my interviews, I say we use whatever you want to, because I don't care about how you get there. I care that you do. I care about how fast you do. I care about the thought process. I care about your ability to learn. So when I'm hiring, of course, use whatever you want to in the job interview. I don't care. And if somebody's been coding for 20 years, I mean, what am I giving you a coding interview for? Like, seriously, you've been doing this for 20 years at top tier companies, and I'm going to, give you a coding interview and find something new? No. So I think it's nice to see Meta, being pragmatic, as much as the AI stuff's a little laughable. I think it's nice to see that we have some pragmatism entering the job interview process. That's a good thing.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, use the tools that you're going to use. Be honest about it. They should be honest. You should be honest. All of this, but all of these naysayers are around still, though. It's like it's like you're going against the purists, and again, it is though, isn't it? I mean, they keep popping out on my post. I'm about to post about it.
I mean, I want to see a purist's browser history, please. Show me your browsing history. Come here. You want to talk purism? Come here. Let me see your browser history. Show me how many tabs you have open as you're writing code. Come on.
By sending me a letter written in quill pen.
Come on.
Not on social media.
I used to do this a lot during interviews. Like, there would be these people that were just elite coders and, they were smart as anything. It's like, man, open up your browser. Show me. Yeah, you're coding this raw like you're asking them to do, show me. And it was always the truth. It was all of us do this. I mean, I have been in tech for 30 years. We all Google things. We all copy, paste, and edit, and update, and adapt. This is how all of us do it. And when an error code shows up, most of those error codes are so obscure. If you understand the error code, you understand how to code and prevent it in the first place. So the error codes that you're going to get are the ones who are going to just go, what? How did that work? Yeah, I mean, let's be honest about how we do this. Now we just pay, ChatGPT is the new Stack. Stack Overflow is falling apart, and ChatGPT is the new one. That's just how it is. I mean, and now we have Copilot and Cursor and all of these coding tools that we all use. So let's just be honest. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah, honesty.
Oh. Who knew in AI? No.
What is that?
We shouldn't do that. Oh, speaking of honesty, new startup backed by the founder of Robinhood, Harmonic AI, promises hallucination-free models for math. Yeah, okay. Hallucination-free. I mean, on the one hand, it would be really big. On the other hand, it's like, we just really haven't gotten to hallucination-free on anything. But it's a good goal. I mean, I like the fact that this is the objective. Let's do it for real. Let's do it in a way that works. But I also worry that we're just not being pragmatic in the fact that that's not That's not how AI works. AI isn't 100% accurate on anything, and it never
Oh,
will be.
well, it's the nature of probability. I don't know how else to explain it. I've tried to
Exactly.
explain it so many times. Probability by its
Ugh.
very nature cannot be 100% correct. It's, you know. But anyway,
We don't. Yeah, we just don't have that.
no, no.
And I mean, and as soon as you give it something novel, it's just like a person. You give a person something new, even if they have a PhD in math, you got like a 95% accuracy. That's just how it is. And that's how the model is going to be too. I mean, we continually ask a model to be better than a person. And I don't know how to do that. And I don't think anyone does right now. Anyone in this field who builds AI, it builds machine learning models, builds any of this stuff, I don't know how to get to 100% unless it's a really, really simple causal system. Causal ML is the only thing that gets close to 100%, and even it's wrong because stuff about the system itself changes. And so it's just, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to get off my high horse and let's move on. Let's move on to something more interesting than AI hallucinates. Thank you, Captain Obvious. You want to do ChatGPT's agent mode? A little bit of manipulation here, yes.
Yeah, this goes back to, when was it, last week or the week before, with the really weird anti-swagger from Mr. Altman.
It's like they knew something.
Yeah, well, wow. Like this OpenAI agents can book your life, but just don't, because don't tell his nan basically not to trust it with anything personal or anything like. It's obvious, like this is like the Wild West of the internet in the early 2000s, with the exception that we actually know what can go wrong and we're just not doing anything about it.
Yep.
But the thing is that like this is not. There's a really fine line here, just to quickly discuss, which is that, and I know this through doing products so much with these large language models. The trouble is that in many respects, you have to launch and learn live. It's very painful, because it's very, much of the digital world was well understood. We wouldn't think so with the digital pollution, but to some of us, it was well understood. And so you could pretty much lock down, most of what you understood was going to happen, and do the preamble stuff first to ensure that the stuff didn't go wrong. But the trouble is that these things are very different, as we've often discussed, from the lab to the real world. What users' expectations are, what can go wrong. Hallucination is a prime example, what we just spoken about. And of course, things like there is an evolving attack surface that's only really being discovered. There's a lot of the same fundamentals as the digital world, but there's an whole package more. I'm talking, my last count was 36 taxonomies of attacks. That's not 36
so there's
attacks.
more than that.
That's
there's more than
taxonomies
yeah.
of attacks. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
can be made against these things. And so there was the inevitable, look, I've made the agent do exactly what OpenAI said it couldn't. But I am sympathetic, because you do have to release this stuff. I don't know. I think people did say you can't just call it experimental and get away with it, and they have a valid argument there. I don't really know how else you learn in many respects, especially if you're OpenAI.
Yeah.
But this is new technology, and I think that's the thing I want to emphasize, is that this is nascent technology, and we are going to see this stuff happen. And it's inevitable. But yeah.
And I think, interestingly, sort of as a counter case, looking at company Chipotle, who definitely not in the AI innovator category, but Chipotle came up with this. They partnered with a small startup, and they came up with Avocado is their AI for hiring. And so we have AI for hiring that's been, sort of this has been the dream for a long time. It's actually working for Chipotle, because they're focusing on things that AI can do well, instead of trying to bend AI to do things that it just hasn't really done with high enough reliability yet. They're not doing things like resume screening. They're not making hiring decisions with AI. They're, helping candidates complete resumes and that application process, helping them complete it faster, more frequently. It's providing information about the job, the actual role, and what they'll be doing. It's helping to schedule these interviews, and those are resulting in significant value. So you're talking about, yes, AI and ML-driven features, but it's the things that AI does well instead of trying to make it do things that it doesn't. They've reduced time to hire from 12 days, this kind of this ready to hire, time to hire metric from 12 days to 3.5 days. With this, they've improved the application completion rate, like people that actually finish the entire process, improved it to 85%. They're reducing the amount of time that it takes hiring managers to get these things scheduled. I mean, you hear these things and you're just like, well, yeah, that's the dream. And it's not complex AI that's delivering it. It's not overreaching AI. It's just using AI for what it's feasibly capable of delivering today. And they're also building, and this is something I teach in the courses, they're building the foundation for this platform, this avocado AI that's in place. When more complex features are feasible, when AI can manage those, they'll just be able to dovetail them in. And the platform itself makes it easier to deliver these features directly to users, to candidates, to hiring managers. So they'll start out with this narrow piece of the workflow and then slowly, incrementally extend it as the technology's ready. And this is the smartest approach because it's lower cost. It delivers value immediately. This is short-term, immediate value instead of, 2 years out. I don't know why companies don't follow this model and they sort of go with the pie in the sky, prototype until forever and hope for the best, and it never turns out well. It's refreshing, right? It's kind of nice to see this done right.
I just want to clarify. I just need to clarify this point. You're trying to say that they're using AI for what it's good for. This is borderline heresy. I don't know if I believe
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This must be held in some tribunal somewhere. Jokes aside, it's this whole thing, isn't it? I mean, the biggest one I love is when they try and stuff LLMs into highly risky deterministic workflows and then get all baffled when things don't go, and you're just like, well, I don't know what to say to you, and it's the cart before the horse thing again, isn't it? As you look at the problem, I mean, like they've picked things like, I mean, scheduling's horrible. It's so painful. Nobody enjoys it.
Takes forever.
There was a great report. There was a great report that said don't just assume because something takes a long time and a lot of brain power that you should automate it. People actually really enjoy that kind of work. But things like scheduling were like, no, everybody hates that. Nobody wants to do scheduling, and it's kind of like, well, if it can take that over and do it relatively accurately, then fabulous. There's these, and if it gets it wrong, nobody's going to die on the operating theatre. We're just going to miss a call and reschedule. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, who knew?
Yeah, who knew?
All right, let's get back to stuff AI does badly. ChatGPT. Let's go back. Yeah, I don't mean to bag on OpenAI, but shared conversations. I hear there may be some issues with privacy there. There may be some problems.
I shouldn't laugh. I really should. I felt really bad because I posted just like a tongue in cheek on it.
I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it is. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you do things with AI that you shouldn't do.
I want to know if this was deliberate or not, because I have my suspicions, but I'm not commenting on that. So, like, I do a chat and then I get the link and I share it with you. So I make it shareable. So you don't need my account to get in. All good so far. To find it's all completely open to the web, indexed. It's then search engineable, all the rest of it, Of course, the way I posted about it was just like a tongue-in-cheek thing. So right now we have a way for really classy SEO backlinks, because I create a shared thing with you with all my backlinks into my lovely website or my Substack, whatever it is. Google indexes it. Next thing we know, AI is training on it. And then absorbing it into the system. Wonderful. I think it probably won't last now I've said that. Yeah. But, it's kind of like, after I posted it, I felt bad because, people were quite concerned because they really assumed the privacy in this. I mean, to me, if it says shared and public, it's shared and public. You take your own risk. But I guess if we're coming from the mentality of a Google Doc as a prime example, if I share my Google Doc with you and you have a dedicated URL for that, I do not assume Google to then index it and then give it to the world. And I think people were operating under the same premise, and understandably so. And so there's an
Yep.
awful lot of private stuff and IP and a lot of stuff to do with businesses that has no business being on the web that is on the web. I'll let you do your own investigations into that. Yeah, really, really
Who
uncomfortable one,
knew?
this. Yeah.
Who knew? Yeah, but I mean, I called this out a couple of years ago when I said, Google is very, very opaque. And they were with their privacy. I said, why don't you just spell it out right under the prompt window? Tell me, is this being used to train or isn't it? And that's what they did. OpenAI did it. Google did it now. And, if you look at the prompt and you have the enterprise version of any of these products, you'll see it. Your content is not used to train OpenAI's models or Google's models or any of it. And that's exactly what you need to do, because otherwise people get into these gray areas and they don't buy your product. And that was a huge limiting factor in the enterprise. And I heard that from every single client. I'm reading the terms and conditions. I see loopholes where you could use my data. So why don't you just spell it out? If you're telling me that you don't do it, why don't you spell it out and make it clear? And as soon as they did, all of this stuff just disappeared. Everyone started, as an enterprise, all of these enterprises started saying, okay, we can start adopting now. Why? Because you've just told us exactly what we can expect. And anytime you make expectations of privacy unclear, you nail adoption. What I don't think companies realize is, especially these big tech companies and enterprise, that target now enterprise and consumers, that first to adoption equals winner. Mm-hmm. When it comes to AI, it's not first to market, it's not first mover, it's not first to publish, it's not first any of this stuff. It is first to gain adoption and mind share. And as much as I loathe myself for just using the word mind share, it's a reality, because you look at Copilot versus ChatGPT. As Copilot continuously improves and enters the enterprise and is really making strides in, you run into the mind share of people who have used ChatGPT for 2 years straight now. And that's all they want to use because they've gotten very used to it. Adoption's the competitive advantage. So when you're designing AI tools, designing AI products, you have to design for adoption. There's a reason why I hammer on this in my classes and really beat on it when it comes to posts. I know people don't want to talk about adoption. I know people don't want to talk about design. I know they don't want to talk about these human AI collaboration pair. I get it. But if you don't do it well, your product, no matter how good it is, will fail.
I know that you've bumped into exactly what I bumped into time and time again.
Yes.
Company approaches you. We're a Microsoft shop. We want to do Copilot everywhere, so we're AI. You get in there. Everybody's using ChatGPT. On the ground, they have been for years. Because the problem is that we have this weird paradox whereby the sort of front lines have been using it and adopting it for longer. The enterprises have taken longer to get there, so they've already got into their adoption patterns and are not impressed. Even if they're quite capable, they're already biased against new entrants in their minds. And the other lesson from this is the one of startups. Oh, I shouldn't say it does my brain in, as we say in colloquial English. Oh yeah, we're building this LLM AI product for enterprises. But there's no security, there's no guarantee of this, and training the model, and what happens to your data, and where's it stored, and what you're going to do with that, and on and on. I have very, very few examples. Very few. I mean, tiny, like one or two, where I could say, you know what, those guys, and they're based in London, those guys, they've designed for the enterprise. And do you want to know the funny thing about it? They have so much difficulty raising funds from VCs, because all VCs seem to be interested in is this bright, shiny stuff from the 20-year-old kids that just come out of university, no idea how to get it into the enterprise. These are fully mature, enterprise ready, even government ready, and VCs are not interested in it at all. And I wouldn't mind, but it actually does what LLMs are good at. You're like, I don't know, then I give up on this world. I'm just going to hammer stuff out on LinkedIn and have a moan, at that stage.
Yeah.
Sponsorships are still available. Reach out to info@v2ds.com for more information. And now I'm going to get a little too real.
I got approached sideways by somebody who said, look, if I take care of your people and I give you a large compensation package, meaning bigger than my company has ever made, more money than my company's ever made, would you consider taking on a head of product role? Yeah. Yes. Yes, I would. I
Really?
mean, oh yeah. I mean, it's gotten to the point where these numbers are so big that you have sort of an existential moment, at least I did, where I looked at the number and I just went, why would I say no to that? Yeah, I
Wow.
would do that. And so there's selling out. I mean, it's harder and harder to say no. I'll be completely honest. When you get, you can say whatever you want to until you get one of these offers, and then you get one of these offers, and it's like, wow, yeah, I'll talk with you. And I said this a few years ago. I said, look, if data science, wasn't AI back when I was talking about this in 2018, wasn't AI yet, but I said, look, if you're really serious that AI is the future and it's going to be this multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar market opportunity, you would you would just go to the best researchers on the planet and say, how much do you want? And that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what makes me realize this is real, because if you didn't see the revenue, you wouldn't do this. And it's not just one company going wild. It's not just Meta. It's all of these different companies. And, that's what I said. I said, look, if this is real, this is what you'll start seeing. You'll see a real talent race. You'll see a war where it's like, yeah, how much do you want? Blank checks. Because we're not going to say no. I mean, I saw Andrew Ng on Bloomberg the other day. And I saw Andrew Ng and I was like, oh my God, he's gone corporate. Okay, if they got to him, I mean, yeah, it's only a matter of time before they get to all of us.
I
If
don't.
Andrew Ng has gone corporate, all of us are going corporate. That's just the way it's going to be, because that's sort of that for me, that was the tipping point moment, was seeing him like, this is it. We've hit it. It's time to really think seriously about where do you go future-wise and set yourself up to be in the best position possible, because the opportunities are massive.
I'm starting to see the companies approaching me, probably not on the scale that you're talking about, but and from the US as well. And these
Yep.
are people that have been through, or I sense they've been through a cycle and not got the people or the person or the results that they were hoping for, and all of a sudden this kind of more pragmatic, less
Yep.
BS, actually I do know what I'm talking about, if you can be bothered to actually sit and read for more than 2.5 seconds, is starting to filter through. So I wonder if this is perhaps an argument for pragmatism that we've been kind of quite hopeful on in that sense. Maybe we are already reaching the end of the first cycle for those that were
Yep.
further in front. I'm talking about where that kind of first mini crash has happened, and they're jaded by the hype. I'm talking about in real businesses making real
Yeah.
money. I'm not talking
Yep.
about BS valuations. I'm talking about hardcore businesses. I'm
Yep.
talking about one, for me specifically, in finance, in fintech, another one in ad tech. These are serious businesses making serious money that are kind of going, hey, we'd like to talk, and we'd like to talk seriously. So maybe that pragmatism is beginning to come to its fruition. I don't know. Is that just hopeful thinking, do you think?
No, for the last decade, that's been all of my clients. I say most clients come to me 3 years, $30 million too late. Now I'm going to have to abridge this, where it's 3 years,
Yeah,
300 million too late, or three
yeah,
years, 3 billion too late. I mean, we're spending so much more than we used to. It's now not 3 million, 3 years, 30 million. It's more like 3 years, 3 billion. So
yeah.
it's order of magnitude larger mistakes being made. And I see the exact same thing. They come to me after pragmatism. And I think that's one of the reasons why the company that reached out to me, because they're very pragmatic on AI, very
Yeah,
pragmatic view on AI.
exactly.
And that's why it's so tempting. And I've got to say, obviously this wasn't on the schedule to talk about today, but it's the reality. We're
I think it's
all
good to
looking
talk
at
about.
this. Yeah, we're all looking at this with a new lens.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to a little bit of news. I want to give you one to riff on that you maybe haven't heard of, but it connects into what you talk about with world models so well. Credit card companies are increasingly dictating what's appropriate and inappropriate by saying we won't accept payments if you're selling this type of game, or if your game contains this type of content, or if your newsletter contains this type of content, or if your social media site does this type of business. And they're increasingly saying, we won't let you, there's sort of brick walling monetization because you can't process payments through traditional means. And this is one of those use cases for cryptocurrency, where crypto allows for a side route. So, I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen a crypto use case where I went, yeah, I get it. That's actually a really compelling use case, is because studios have more freedom of expression. But, tying it into your world models, what do you think about this? Credit card companies dictating what can and can't be monetized. So essentially saying, yeah, you can produce whatever you want to, but we won't let you get paid for it on our system and network, which dominates global payments, if it has this type of content that we don't like. So talk about putting your finger on the scale for these world models.
Yeah, I really, really wish I'd read something in more depth earlier now, because, and it was on Reddit. I love Reddit. There's a company that was just literally put out of business overnight in exactly these circumstances, and they were producing games. I didn't read all the details, but this was the fully flourishing business overnight gone. And it's so weird, Vin, because the minute you were talking about this with credit card companies, because now effectively they're becoming censors, aren't they? Now, don't get me wrong, there are diabolical things that should be,
Yes.
in
Oh,
my
yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But
I'm
who
not
decides?
advocating. I'm not like Musk advocating for anarchy. No, I'm not. I'm fairly open-minded, but there are certain things that, where cryptocurrencies, you start to think to yourself, well, they can't regulate it, they can't control it, and it could be that in no because as soon as you start doing this, as soon as I mean, from American prohibition, we know from the war on drugs, we know it all, don't we? The minute you start to say no, and these are the enforcement actions, the black market comes, because where there's it's supply and demand, where there's demand for it, there'll be supply for it, and they'll find alternative financial routes to make it happen. So yeah,
And
I
this
can't
isn't
riff
even a
off that
black
enough anyway.
market. I mean, this is more of a gray market, right? This
Yeah.
is just a lot of this stuff isn't objectionable across the board.
No, I've read that Reddit post, and it was kind of like, so the objection was mild.
Yeah.
It was just seemed mild. I was like, what? There was nothing. There was no violence. There was nothing that you would categorize as a moral person as that's objectionable. And I'm glad that's out of this world, because that's just shouldn't be around. Nothing like it. And you're like, oh my goodness, it's kind of anyway. Yeah, we talk about freedom of speech, but there are other ways to enforce censorship, aren't there?
Yes. Yeah, there definitely are. Let me wrap up with a few sort of lightning round type quick news articles and some releases and announcements that were made. There's a data center in Wyoming that looks like it's part of, the push for AI, and it will use more energy than all of the homes. All of the people in Wyoming will use less energy than this one data center will. And throughout the US, we're already paying higher energy prices because data centers are beginning to take more energy than people do. So this is a real story. Sort of keep your eye on this, because I think this becomes a big deal very quickly
Yeah.
when energy bills start spiking because of the data center down the street. This is already happening a lot more on the East Coast in Pennsylvania and, sort of in that area of Virginia where there's this biggest, the deepest density of AI data centers. So that's big. Tying into a little bit of Elon Musk and his recklessness. Tesla's getting sued for $345 million. And it's another sign, it's for a self-driving crash. And it's another sign that they're falling behind on full self-driving mode. Sort of following up from last week, talking about their issues with delivering a feasible product. Well, it looks like they're falling behind, not just on earnings, but now they're getting sued. You wonder how long this goes until you start seeing other lawsuits. I mean, we saw lawsuits around the AI for the content space and generative AI. Now we're seeing it around crashes and fatalities. So, I mean, we have a wave of litigation coming, and it seems like the U.S. approach is, we're going to let the courts sort this out. We're not going to regulate it. We're going to let you, litigate, and let that be our method of enforcement. You sort of enforce it yourself. Whereas you have the EU saying, no, we're just not going to let you do any of it. And we'll see which one ends up being the better approach. I think sort of a combination, somewhere in between will probably be better. And speaking of, the China action plan, what happens when the AI action plan from China that's diplomatic and that everybody wants? Yeah. So Apple's cracking down on AI that offends the CCP's
I
delicate
know. How,
sensibilities.
how
Yes,
does
in the
Trump from
App Store.
Washington feel about this? You know what I mean?
No. So apps in the App
Yeah.
Store were notified overnight. Yeah, you can't be distributing in China because the CCP's delicate sensibilities said no. So much for diplomacy. Diplomacy was, dear Apple, get rid of these people. So
Yeah.
expect that to be, sort of the CCP approach to this diplomatic AI action plan, which is, hey, so get rid of these, make them disappear. That's diplomacy.
Apple needs to be careful because that was pretty unveiled in the US AI action plan, which was kind of side with the other people, and you're going to see real problems from us. And just a quick note on the Tesla and the legal action against them. We're not only going to see that in self-driving cars, we're going to see that in things like medical scribes. We're going to see that across the board, and legal advice and things like that, because these are professions that are held to account for when they err. So the question then becomes, when the large language model errs, who is responsible? Who do you go to for recourse when I lose my court case, as somebody recently did, lost their entire court case, and it was irrevocable, the judgment, because once you lose in that court, you lose. Who do you then go to? Because you can't you can't take your legal court to their professional body. Do I go to OpenAI or whoever created the large language model? Do I blame myself? What? Who's responsible? So we're going to see a lot more of this litigation across the world in all these different professional domains.
So interesting releases this week. OpenAI delivered study mode for education. Now, instead of just delivering answers directly to students, they'll sort of walk them through a series of questions that simulates a teaching process to help them synthesize, not just get answers. And I think this is a big nod to the process of studying and reading and learning is a process of synthesis, not a process of just getting to the right answer. And so it looks like OpenAI is developing a product around this, which is really I think that's a huge step in the right direction.
I'm
Microsoft hasn't.
advocating. I'm advocating they call it Socratic mode, just because
Yes.
that's what it should be
Yes.
called.
No, it's Stewart mode. We got to call it Stewart. I mean, we got to brand this stuff.
Yeah, and this echoes, and who can blame them again for getting into education?
Yep.
Sorry to just quickly interject there.
No.
Exactly as you said a couple of weeks ago, these large language models, they don't judge you, they don't tut at you, they don't get exhausted by you, they don't.
Yep.
Then they are in some ways ideal learning partners. Am I advocating a replacement of human teachers? Of course not. But unfortunately, if they're more attractive, then we need to do something about human teaching.
Yep. Oh, yeah, definitely. Microsoft updated Edge browser with an AI agent where it can do all of the things that you just talked about ChatGPT agents being able to do that were, co-opted for wrong purposes. Microsoft was like, hold my beer. They went straight in and are now doing the same thing.
Where's my warning tweet from Microsoft? I'm just going to trust it unless I get a warning tweet from somebody.
Their warning tweet was just, besides the other thing. It's Clippy. Clippy comes up and goes, this might not be a great idea.
When Clippy's used against you, yeah. It's coming. It's coming.
So Adobe updates to photo editing, their AI tools. Now, when you remove something, the background updating or changing or reintegrating the background so it looks like you didn't remove anything, that's getting better. They're doing this incremental, nice, slow approach in Photoshop to deliver these features that people actually use and care about. And they're making Photoshop easier to use, which is absolutely an oxymoron. Photoshop has never been easy to use, and I can tell you this from personal experience. So if they can do anything to make Photoshop easier, they will sell more Photoshop. They will sell more of their Creative Cloud because it is so hard to use right now.
Yeah, I
Notebook.
remember. I remember years ago when oh yeah, just do images for the website on Adobe Photoshop, and I was trying to use it, and I was like, I wonder if there's any courses on this, and there was a 6-month course local to me, 6 months on the basics of it. Anyway, those were the
Basics.
days. Yeah,
Photoshop
those were the
basics.
days. Yeah, you're like, oh my goodness.
That's why Figma is worth like over $100 billion
I know.
right now or something.
Yeah.
It's not over 100 billion, but I mean, you get the
I
point.
just need 12 features, folks. Just 12. I can't go
It's
beyond
like,
that.
yeah,
I haven't got the
I just want to
capacity.
take my face out of this background.
Exactly.
Can
Just
you
change
do
the
that?
background colour. That's all I
My
want.
God. Yeah. Notebook LM got some updates too. It now has a video podcast as well as an audio podcast, which is kind of
I
cool.
didn't know
And
that.
yeah, yeah. So we could just write this up, and Notebook LM would do it for us. Two avatars that look like us. We like don't even have to show up anymore. We could. It probably wouldn't be as funny as, well, who knows? Maybe it'd be funnier. Who knows? I'm gonna try that next week. See if Notebook LM would be funnier than we are. Oh, that
When
would
you
be
get
tragic.
Snaptop as head of product, I'll have to do it with a an avatar on you. That's it. I'll just clone Vin. It'll just be me and clone Vin. That'd be it.
It'd be horrible. No, well, I don't know. Maybe
It
it'd be
would
a
be
better
horrible.
response. Yeah,
It'd
it'd be
bloody
horrible for us.
Yeah.
All right, and finally, Google just released yesterday Alpha Earth Foundations, where you can now look at any part of Earth between 2017 and 2024, and they'll be continuously updating this. You can go back in time, forward in time, do comparisons, and so it's generating from literally trillions of images and satellite images of Earth. It is generating historical and current so that you can look at the delta and differences between them. They're pitching this as being useful in everything from figuring out the impacts of changing climate or weather events, all the way to figuring out where the best places to build going forward, best places to develop going forward will be. And that's kind of an interesting use case. We'll see where that goes, but just released it in an early trial version. Researchers love it, obviously, because, I mean, that's something that they've been trying to do for a very long time, and it's something that's very expensive to do. So that is good. Those are the major releases for this week.
Wow, well done. That actually sounds really cool. I'll have to have
Yeah.
a play with that if I can.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
often, all this stuff is excitedly released in America, and us poor Europeans, it hasn't gone past GDPR yet or something. And
Yeah, sorry, you can't have it. Hey,
VPN
look,
time.
here's this really cool thing, but you don't get it.
Exactly.
It's the rug pull.
Poor
That's
Europeans. That's poor Europeans.
why VPN usage is surging. Suddenly,
Totally.
everyone in Rome is suddenly their laptops in Washington D.C. It's
There's
like, wait
over
a
a
minute,
billion people live in the US now, apparently.
how are there so many computers in Bangor, Maine?
Billion of
When
us
did
all
this
living in
happen?
Nevada.
Nevada's population suddenly swells to be the entire EU.
300 million in Nevada.
All right, earnings season. You want to do earnings season? Round 2. We got more earnings. So, good news across the board, unless you're Amazon. There was no way to win. Amazon posted, increasing revenues and profits, and everything else in the street was just like, meh, you're losing market share to Google and Microsoft on AI. Your Alexa is kind of not doing what you said it would do. I don't see any of these AI features in Amazon Prime moving the needle. I don't know how you're going to use it to generate content or drive new shoppers or create new subscribers. Walmart's growing its e-commerce business faster than you are. It's always this comparison. And I think that's the really important takeaway from this week is you have to look at comparison in your industry. How do you compare to your nearest competition? Even if you're bigger and growing nicely, if they're growing faster, their shares will be rewarded more than yours will. And anytime you have a bad announcement, layoffs are coming. Meta is proving AI revenue. It is proving that it's using AI for ads. Its ads are more effective, more targeted, and advertisers are spending more with it. Microsoft is showing that Azure is growing faster than it's ever grown before, and it's able to monetize Copilot. We're seeing Copilot revenue start trickling into Microsoft's earnings report. I mean, it's everyone that thinks, oh, this is just a bubble. The last 2 weeks, I want you to explain it. I mean, where do you come down on all of these people that have been, oh, AI is complete garbage, it's complete hype? Where do you come down now that, we have all of this earnings? It's not just this quarter. You can go back almost a year now and see, and it's not just NVIDIA selling picks and shovels. You can see for over a year now, companies at the next layer of the AI stack are making cash, and revenue is growing in line with spending. I mean, where do you fall on this?
And I know that and I feel exactly the same. What we are going to see is a clearer and clearer pictures of runners and losers, winners and
Yeah.
losers. And it's going to be sad, because there's going to be far, far more losers than winners for a host of reasons that we could spend hours and hours talking about. And I think that in many respects, that kind of that going the opposite to hype, that sort of complete doomerism and that completist nonsense, is yet another form of wishful thinking. Just that kind of ability to be able to, and it does worry me that seeps into the sea level as much as the hype, if I'm honest, because
Yes.
as always, it's in between. And those that take either path are going to become deluded, and they're going to be part of that loser pack. You do need that pragmatism in that middle section is where the winners will emerge. And Apple is lucky in that sense that it can still take that approach where it's saying, we just want to make sure we're getting this right. I think even for them, the day of reckoning is coming.
Yeah.
With regard to AI, I want to say that, but I still
Yeah.
think they have that slight runway in front of them. We're seeing the devastating impact. Not devastating. I mean, bloody double digit growth. I mean, that's not. You know what I mean, though, with
Yeah.
AWS and Amazon.
Yeah.
But they are being held to account. For failures in Prime,
Yeah.
and in their
Yeah.
Alexa, and rightly so. I mean, they could. I don't know if they ever did, but they were supposed to partner with Anthropic at one stage for Alexa, and I don't know if that ever happened. And
Yeah,
but
it's supposedly in there. Yeah.
the reckoning is coming. We sound like prophets of doom, don't we? But don't go to either extreme.
I like
Is my
that title.
advice.
I'm putting that in my
Don't go
LinkedIn
to
profile.
in that middle, in that pragmatic ground will emerge
Yep.
the winners, and unfortunately there's going to be a stark contrast between the two in every industry, in my opinion.
Wanted to bring up another new release this week, Apple iOS 26, and I wanted to bring up a piece that AI is doing really well that I think it's flying under the radar and it's going to disrupt a whole lot more than most people are thinking it will, and it's to marketing. And I saw a post where somebody from one of the US political parties came out and said, this new feature is going to result in a collapse, potentially as much as 500 million in lost donations to our political party, because it filters out spam text messages and unknown phone callers. And so won't someone please think of the poor politicians and the poor political party? Won't someone please think of them? And they're actually calling for political action to prevent Apple from rolling this out. And I think they see it before anyone else does. The number of spam callers, cold emails, cold DMs, cold everything. And you're going to have two inboxes. And I downloaded it and I've been using it. And my spam calls and interruptions from spam calls has gone from unbearable to zero just by enabling this filtering feature. And all it does is it creates two inboxes for everything, for calls, for text messages, for voicemails, for direct messages, for email, for everything. I don't know this person, it goes into one folder. I know this person, they're trusted, it goes into a different one. And I spend all of my time now in the trusted folder, and I just toss out all of the untrusted stuff. And I see zero marketing. I get zero telemarketer and spam calls. I get zero voicemails from them. I just delete them now, every couple of days. And it has, overnight, this one AI feature has resulted in, and I think this is where we go from a marketing standpoint, this is the end of spam and cold emails and cold direct messaging and marketing. It's going to disappear. And your ability to get to a person's inbox is going to be directly tied to how much they trust you and how well you align with that person. because you're not going to be able to just scam them with these spam calls and these spam emails and these spam direct messages. Those are gone. And I think as soon as iOS 26 drops to general availability, just like AI, Google's AI search dropped that next click traffic to near zero, I think this is going to absolutely devastate marketing and drop some campaigns' effectiveness to zero, and it's going to do it overnight.
That's fascinating, and think of the security implications as well
Yeah.
from the
Oh, yeah.
from the phishers and the spear phishers and the targeters, and that's I mean, that is from a you can see why people would moan about it. The criminals and the politicians. I shouldn't have said that. I'm
Wait a minute.
sorry.
Wait, they're
I'm
different. I mean,
sorry.
sorry. No, my mistake.
The
Go ahead.
spammers, the criminals, and the politicians are all moaning about it. I tells you something. Am I right? It's true. It's true. We don't like this AI. This is horrible.
And I think it's interesting that they were the first ones to call it out. I would have expected marketers to go absolutely in on this, because this is, for a lot of marketing across retail, this is one of their most effective techniques. Is sort of, they spam you, they hit you cold. I think Substacks that do this, a lot of newsletters will just auto sign you up, and they're going straight into the spam filter now. They will not make it through. And so all of these tactics that used to work are going to go to zero effectiveness overnight, and I don't think marketing's ready for it.
No, agreed. Wow, I look forward to this.
Yeah, me too. I got to tell you, iOS 26, it's amazing just for that one feature. Are we, last but not least, are we ever getting our privacy back? Are we ever going to see privacy again? Recent research studies
your
showed.
Meta glasses, you're not.
Yeah, seriously.
I can resist it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't wear these during certain activities at work where you may be seeing intellectual property on the whiteboard. Don't you dare. But anyway, research survey found out 40% of data brokers failed to respond to data deletion requests when researchers pinged them. Like, didn't remove, but didn't even respond. It was like, you don't even exist.
No.
Major AI training data contain millions of documents like passports, driver's licenses, things with personally identifiable information on it. Millions of these things. And so they're in AI. I mean, basically all of the LLMs, it's in there. All of this private data, all of this private information. And speaking of the glasses, Amazon is going to get in on this too, but not with the glasses. They're going to do it with their Alexa Plus smart speaker. With these multi-turn conversations that they're having, guess what? They're going to make one of the turns. Oh yeah, it's an ad. So, if you're asking, what's the critical weather alert that I just got, it may serve you an ad for coffee before it tells you, flash flood warning in effect. I mean, these are the types of things that are coming and going to happen. And it's not just Amazon. Google's thinking about it. I think Sam Altman said he's open to tasteful. I don't know what tasteful means, but tasteful advertising in ChatGPT in these multi-turn conversations. And they have all your data. I mean, you talked about it with your last segment where you talked about, these companies have all of these private conversations that they can use now to monetize and to serve you ads, not just more effective, more targeted ads, but using modalities that are more effective and more targeted in some ways. I mean, you could even go more manipulative. So I want to ask you the question, are we ever getting our privacy back? Are we ever getting back from this?
The worst thing about that question from a personal perspective is that I am guilty of volunteering it away for the benefits that I sometimes get from it. And this is the part that worries me. I'm a security expert. I understand a lot about privacy. And the thing is that with Google search and things like that, there are always things that you will withhold. There are things but they can pop out in a conversation with a large language model, or they can be subtly inferred in ways that could never be done through a static search. These profiles of us are never going to go away. And the problem is that
No.
in many respects, we're going to volunteer them away. I know that a lot of people watching this will be smart and will say, no way, that's no. Wow, I beg to differ at this stage, because I've seen what a very, very advanced AI can do, and it is staggering the benefits and the loop it closes around you.
And quickly too.
Yeah,
And how
fast.
quickly it gets you into that
Oh
loop
yeah.
where you're trusting it
Yep.
more than you would trust a normal person. So talking about, going from that inbox, zero spam inbox to now AI is able to introduce this,
That's the point.
introduce these ads in a way that you don't know they're ads. And that's
Yep.
the insidious part of this is you don't know you're being marketed to because it's these complex multi-step ads where you don't realize you're being marketed to until long after the impacts have already been happening. And
Yeah.
we don't understand. We saw this in the early days of social media. We began outsourcing some of our critical thinking to AI, and not to AI really, but just to social media posts. Where in the past, all you ever had was an expert source. So when you had questions about is this true or is that true, you would just go to what was available, which was in books or in magazines, and they were only publishing expert sources. Was there manipulation back then? Of course there was, but not exactly to the scale that there is now. Now you go on social media and you can find answers that fit, because the algorithm just wants you to stay on longer. It's not there to show you the right answer. It's there to show you the answer that'll keep you online longer. Now AI takes that a step further. It's not there to show you the right answer. It's there to show you the one that monetizes you the best.
Yeah.
So this is just a progression.
Social media will be, a lot of people say that on my post when I talk about closed loops or whatever, social media will be viewed one day as a preamble, just a
Yeah.
mere walk up the drive to the
Yep.
mansion of AI and what it becomes. Because ultimately, I was still communicating with other humans. Now,
Yes.
that you said right there, you said to keep you on longer. Well, the thing
Mhm.
that would do was that it would put me into tribes.
Yep.
Tribes of people that thought like me. Now we're talking about something that's going to reflect me back as me, is going to reflect what I think back to
Yes.
keep me talking with it. And then it can very casually in natural language introduce, and we've talked about the shaping aspect, because
Yes.
it imprints on me and then it then does it in reverse, and then it can start being suggestive. And we know from research how persuasive, and this is exactly
Yes.
what Meta is gunning for, with their personalized super intelligence or personalized super alignment. And I don't blame
No,
them.
not
From
Zuck. No, not
they
Mark.
have no
He's never
choice.
done anything with Facebook
Yeah,
that badly before, has he? Never.
OpenAI are doing it.
No.
They're all going to do it. And the trouble is, now you're caught in a loop of just you and the machine. And now we're into very interesting territory philosophically.
I don't know about philosophically. I mean, I think AI doesn't have to take over the world. And one of the most interesting talks that I heard was 7 years ago. AI does not have to conquer the world. We will give it to AI.
Yep.
That was the title of the talk.
Yep.
AI does not have to rise up to take over. We will give it the planet.
Yeah.
Because we are susceptible to manipulation in ways. And one of the easiest ways to see exactly how susceptible we are, go to Las Vegas and just sit down and watch people gamble.
Yeah.
They are told walking in the door that they will lose money. These machines are guaranteed to lose money for everyone that plays. Everyone that plays loses money. That's how the house makes money. So you walk into this thinking you're going to win, even though every sign and everything that's out there tells you that you will lose. The odds are fixed. I used to make slot machines. I can tell you exactly. You go into a menu on a slot machine and you say, this is how much that this slot machine is going to pay back. And it's a percentage. And
Yep.
Nevada Gaming and all the other gaming, regulators set a lower threshold where they say, here's the lowest payback that you can use, but you can set it to whatever you want to. It could be 98%, it could be 86% that it's paying back. So you're guaranteed to lose. I mean, we built these math tables to take your money. You know this, and you walk in and do it anyway. And that's the
It's all about
same.
convenience.
Yeah.
It's the payoff. I love that you bought slot machines, because let's talk about
Yep.
it in terms of payoff. I can
Yes.
have glasses on that can show me where to get to so and so. That sounds good. Or it can identify that bird, or it can do
Yep.
this and that. But what about when it's listening to Vin talking to me and giving me the response so that I sound really skillful and really clever and much more intelligent than I really am, very knowledgeable on these topics and that topic. So I can quaff my brandy and sound amazing on with my cigar in high society,
Yes.
because my glasses voices are telling me, and we are not far from this. And that
Nope.
kind of thing will be seductive enough for many to give away everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
And AI will be able to craft your perception, not just
Exactly.
text-wise, visually craft your perception of
Exactly.
reality.
We're not
That's where
far.
things get, that's where things get dicey.
Yeah, and the trouble is, you can only talk about these things. Not many people are considering the
No.
implications of these things. And of course, if you do try to
Nope.
consider them, you're just a naysayer and a boomer or a
Yep.
Luddite, whatever it is.
Yep.
That's fine, But these things, I've sort of realised we will only realise the implications of in reverse.
Yeah. Thank you. We've reached the end. Episode 6. That was amazing. I mean, it went over a lot. I mean, this is probably going to be one of the longest episodes that we do, but this was amazing.
Yeah,
Let us
I'm
know how
really
you like the new
pleased.
format.
Yeah.
Let us know. Drop it in the comments. Tell us, what do you think about the new format? What do you think about more focus on news? Hopefully a little bit more fun. And thank you again, Stuart. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, I love it. Thank you, Vim.
All right.
Thank you, anyone who's watching.
Thank you to our, several hundred AI visitors and at least dozens of humans that are still listening. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Bye.